But why don't men get asked that question? I think it's absolutely disrespectful to women to be asked that. We, like my brother likes to say, we're turning the women's movement back when we act that way as Democrats.
Correct.
In the Latino culture, we are told, quédense calladas, calladas están más bonitas. Yeah, and like that culture needs to change because we need people to join us at the Capitol, to join us at the city council level, to join us at every level of government, because we need to change that mindset, or our state of the way that we live and our future depends on people speaking up.
I mean, no me mandaron aquí just to sit around, twirl my fingers, and vote no on everything just because. The people in my community have trusted me and have elected me the last 8 years because they know that I'm not going to just sit there and just, grandstand and take videos and pictures. They know I'm actually here to work and I'm serious.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast of Prensa Arizona. This time a little bit different in collaboration with Point of View. We are here to talk about politics. We're here to talk about community. We're here to talk about anything that goes within the Latino community. This time, we are going to derive a little bit into a different direction and doing it a little bit Spanglish. We'll be talking English, Espanol, a little bit of both. They say that politics is division. They say that politics really brings out the bad in people. But does that also relate to those that are related in politics? Today, our two guests are two dear friends, two people that I admire and are role models to our community, representing all the way from the U.S.-Mexico border up to the city of Tucson, Legislative District 20 and 21, Democrats, State Representative Alma and Consuelo Hernandez. Welcome.
Hi.
Good morning. Good morning.
I hope you all are enjoying your day as you head to the Capitol here in a couple of minutes. We were having a little sidebar conversation on a lot of the fun that happens down at the Arizona State Capitol. But you both bring a very different scenario to the political arena. You both are related. You're sisters, right? Although you both represent two different legislative districts and are members of the Democratic Party, you both bring very unique perspectives to the Arizona State Legislature and to politics across the country, really. I think that it's really cool that both of you are in politics. I think, seeing both of you kind of go through the reins of the political spectrum, and having had the fortune of serving with you, Alma, and serving with both of your brother, Daniel, has really given me a unique perspective that not many people get to see. And this is really why, Point of View is collaborating with Prensa Arizona, because we want to humanize politics. We hear it every single day that there is division, that there is differences, that people can't come together. But both of you have been named the most effective Democrats in the Arizona State Legislature when you have a Republican majority. So I'm going to kick it off with a little question on how is it that both of you raised in the same household, get elected, you to a school board first, you to the state legislature, now both of you serving in the same chamber. How is it that both of you still get to differentiate your positions as individuals?
I guess I'll start off by saying that part of the reason is we don't talk politics at home. Whenever we're around the family, we just do family related things, and we don't really talk or bring up a lot of the politics, only because I feel like that's the healthy way for us to continue doing what we're doing. But as far as the Capitol and the work that we're doing, I do believe that it's been an interesting time because I served with you and my brother before, and now serving with my sister. I mean, there are issues that her district is very different from mine, by the way, very different communities that we represent. So it is a very interesting time that we're living in. But I will say that part of the reason we've been able to kind of keep doing what we're doing is we don't bring the politics and all of the drama to the home. Especially when we're with our mom on the weekends and with family. We just try to, stay and do normal things like any other family. So,
yeah, and I think I also want to touch on something. When we talk about politics in the Latino community, most of the time you think about politicians, but every aspect of our life is touched by politics, whether we want to or not. So I do encourage and welcome everyone who, whatever, I always hear people complaining, right? But they have real issues that they care about.
Correct,
so whether it's affordability, like they complain about their gas prices, or it's people who are trying to buy a home, or people who are complaining about their roads, like every aspect that they are talking about that they care about is touched by city council, federal level, school board, state level. And we absolutely have a place in politics. So I welcome everyone to get involved and to ask questions. I think the bottom line for us, like how did you both end up in politics? My brother is the one who got us involved. But most importantly, it was my dad, who was a construction worker, who was the biggest feminist that we, aside from my brother in my family, that we grew to know and love. They always raised us, both my parents, of like, ustedes luchen por lo que esté correcto. If you guys are fighting for something that you believe in, even if you're alone, do it. And we grew up very empowered, probably too empowered to the point where we're a little too confident because...
Which is amazing.
Which is amazing. But like, because we... In the Latino culture, we are told, quédense calladas están más bonitas. Yeah, and like that culture needs to change because we need people to join us at the Capitol, to join us at the city council level, to join us at every level of government, because we need to change that mindset, or our state of the way that we live and our future depends on people speaking up.
And that's exactly right. I mean, going back to the point of, I had the great honor of getting to know your dad, and he was the most staunch Democrat alive. Like, he was at the union protests, when everybody was out walking the line, he was there. He was at, the hospitals to yell at Congresswoman McSally at the time, right? Because
Flake.
Yeah, or Flake, because we needed to expand Medicare and afford it to individuals. But you hit it spot on. He was one of the biggest feminists that I ever met as well. And yesterday,
his gravestone has a donkey.
Yeah.
So like, I've never been to a cemetery and seen someone's gravestone have a donkey with a political figure.
Yeah.
And that was because if you knew our dad, you knew that that's who he was to the bone, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I just wanted to mention that part.
And yesterday we saw and heard the statement from Dolores Huerta, powerful leader that we, all three of us, grew up with. And your dad, probably a little bit closer because he, was a little bit younger than the generation of Dolores Huerta, but definitely, I know he grew up in California, right?
And Van Nuys on a farm.
Yeah, so definitely in that same field of labor movement. And it's that notion. Calladas se ven más bonitas, le dicen a muchas mujeres, especialmente en casas tradicionales latinoamericanas. And we see it today. And in Arizona, for example, Arizona has had the most female governors. The legislature in Arizona for the last at least 20 years has had almost a majority of women. But both of you are not only Latina in the perspective of identification, but you also hold another perspective that is very unique. Not only to Latino households, but also to the state legislature, because it's a very small caucus of individuals who identify as Jewish and who are of that faith and identification. I would assume that a lot of people have probably come up to you and be like, pick your lane. You're either Jewish or you're Latina. Which one is it? And in today's identification of politics, we are not strangers to knowing that people have been very critical of the identification that both of you hold on one side or the other. But how do you girls navigate that in the state legislature and in your personal lives too?
We were talking about this yesterday, actually. So it is something we talk about all the time. You know, we grew up knowing my mom's family history. You know, her family went from being Cohens to Quiñones, changing their last name so that people didn't know, you know, that they were Jewish. And that really, I think, changed a lot for us when we were in high school. There's a program in Tucson called the Jewish Latino Teen Coalition, which Consuelo did sophomore, junior year. And I didn't get a chance to do it, but I ended up working for the Jewish Federation after and helping with the program in that way. But it is something that is very important to me and my identity. And I will never allow someone to tell me you have to choose one or the other, because it's who we are. You know, there are many people in our caucus and in our community who are Latinos and Catholic, Latinos and Christians, and we don't ask them to choose one or the other. So I would, you know, it's a conversation we have constantly. And I think it's something that in the community, people are like, oh, there's Mexican Jews. I mean, things that we hear all the time. We've been hearing this literally since we were in high school. How can someone be Mexican and Jewish? I'll just start off by saying, like, even just within our own synagogue, it's very diverse. We have many different communities that are a part of the Jewish community, but also for me, it's frustrating because no one else is asked or expected to choose a side. And for me, it's not about choosing a side because that's who I am. And people are either going to like me or they're not going to like me. And that's not for me to decide for them. But it is something that we've grown up with. Something we've grown up with and something that we've had to have conversations, not just in the last year, but, you know, literally since we were in high school. And it's not something that, you know, it's unfortunate that we even have to talk about it, but it is something that is important to us. So we'll continue to talk about it and we'll continue to push back on anti-Semitism and a lot of the hate that we receive. But also just another thing I wanted to add to that is the Latino and Jewish communities are so similar. And I think people that just don't know and have never been exposed or educated on it have no idea. But when we're talking about family, you know, we all grew up with big families. That is a very big Jewish value too, of being close to your family and uplifting each other. And that's family comes first. It's the same thing in the Jewish community, right? Help tzedakah, helping others and giving back, tikkun olam, which is like repairing the world. Like there's just so many different issues that are so close and related to the community that we're a part of. So
yeah, and I also, we grew up just learning about our Jewish faith when we were growing up, right? We were in high school. And we would hear from other Jewish students from the university and across the city when I was in the Jewish Latino Team program. And they would tell me how afraid they were to be visibly Jewish when they would wear their Star of David, or anything that would be able to identify them as Jewish. And I never understood it until now, because now our state of politics is so divisive. Right. And I think I'll give some people credit. Some people are actually curious and are like, how are you both Jewish and Latinas? Yeah. There's a big Jewish Latino community across Mexico City. There's a very big community in Argentina. All over the world, there's Jews. But there's also a difference between someone who's actually curious and who's never been exposed, who I'm always willing to educate. But then there's also the other fraction of people who want you to choose a side. Yeah. And like Alma said, I think it's so disrespectful because no one else gets asked. You have to stop being Christian or Latino. Like no one, I can't even imagine someone even being told that. But for Jews, we get asked that all the time. I think the other part too that's important is that's a part of our identity is we are working women, right? I'm in law school. My sister just finished law school. And another thing that we get asked all the time is, you shouldn't do all those things. You should just focus on one thing. But why don't men get asked that question? I think it's absolutely disrespectful to women to be asked that. We, like my brother likes to say, we're turning the women's movement back when we act that way as Democrats.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and the famous wait your turn, right?
All the time.
Because both of you, on top of all of what we're talking about, you're both very young, especially when traditionally politics was older white men who held these seats. And now all of a sudden you have this movement of not only women entering in the political arena, but also young women as well. And in Arizona, I think that we've been fortunate enough to have role models that are women that have progressed the women's movement or the Democratic movement or even Republican movement, because there are many Republican women that you both serve with. Now, going back to your districts, in which, although both of you have a heavy Latino demographic in your districts, probably similar in terms of economic means. Consuelo, you represent the U.S.-Mexico border, Nogales, Bisbee, all the way up to southern Tucson. And Alma, you represent the downtown Tucson corridor, a more affluent area, but also southern Tucson as well. And you also represent Pascuayaqui, which is a tribal community in the state of Arizona, one of 22 federally recognized tribes. How is it that both of you, being members of the Democratic Party, that represent similar demographics, but different needs, how do you identify those needs?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, and I'll speak for myself, we were taught that the best way to run for office is to talk to people. So we've been on the ground for years. Many of the doors that we're knocking on, people already know us because we've gone to the door since we started volunteering in politics. At 14. And for us being able to have those conversations, we know what our community wants because we talk to them.
En vez de quinceañera andaban en la política.
I know.
We did both.
Yeah. We could do everything.
Exactly.
No, it's just being able to have those conversations. I'm online, but I'm probably the worst millennial because it takes me forever to even post something on Twitter or Facebook or X or Instagram. But the people that matter are the ones that we're representing and we're talking to, not I represent everybody, right? The state of Arizona, I'm a state representative, but the people that I listen to are the people that I'm having conversations with, not the extreme left, extreme right, because the people that I represent are working class people that are worried about how am I going to feed my kids and can I provide the best education for my kids and how do I do that? So those are the people that I listen to the most. They don't also know the system, right? So they are not the ones that are emailing me. The people that are emailing me are from all across the state. The people that are calling my office, unfortunately, are not in my district. But I always encourage, and I was telling my sister the other day, I give up my phone number like candy. And I should probably, personal phone number, but I should probably stop doing that because my phone number gets blown up sometimes. But that's how you're closest to the people, is explaining to them how the system works. Like, please email me and I can help you. Breaking down those barriers where people think about politics and think about, mi congresista, tengo que hablarle. The state representatives can also help you navigate the system and assist you.
Yeah, I'll just add as well. Like I've always said, social media is not real life, right? You'll have people and influencers online who people think, just because they posted something or it went viral, that's how everyone in the district feels. I'm sorry to break it to people, but that's not reality. So social media is not real. It's not reality. Social media could be helpful every now and then, but it's actually like showing up to these small community events, I've shown up to so many and I always run into the same people, but that's also because it's the community. That's right. My community. I know it. And you mentioned something that made me laugh a little earlier. You said waiting your turn.
Yeah.
The only reason me and Consuelo are here is because we didn't wait our turn. And I just want to emphasize that because I am all about people running for office. We don't even have to agree on every issue, but I'm always encouraging folks like, hey, if you want to run, especially women. I'm like, si quieren estar en la política, like do it now. Don't wait. Like there is never going to be the perfect time. Yeah. And quite honestly, I'm one of the longest serving Dems now, and I'm 32, right? I've been in for 8 years. I was the youngest woman ever elected at 25. And I take my job very seriously, but I also know that what the rhetoric and the things we see online is not real life. So what I care the most about is making sure that I'm talking to folks in the tribal community, that I'm talking to people on the south side of Tucson, where I grew up, right? So that is what's most important to me. And I think that's the only way that we're able to actually represent people the way that we have. Look, we've never been a part of the establishment of the party. I'll be very honest on that. I was told when I was 24 not to run for office by many people that we helped elect to get into office. I was told, don't do it, wait your turn, this isn't your seat. And I think that's the thing in politics that we need to stop doing, especially in Democratic circles, of we don't pass on seats to your friend just because they're your friend.
Correct.
We don't give endorsements just because, you owe this person a favor. Like, I've always believed in, if someone is running and they're running on the issues and someone you can get behind, endorse that person, not because they didn't raise enough money or because they're not from the group that you're a part of. I've never liked that tribal politics of things. So I've always said, if you want to run. I think Democratic primaries are healthy. I think they're great because it gives people the opportunity in the district to choose.
Yeah.
We are not immune to having primary challenges. I, quite frankly, have had them now 3 times or 2 elections now. People think that they can do this job better than we can. They should run. But also knowing that we are going to continue fighting and working really hard to represent our district and the interests of those in our community.
And and social media can be so misleading. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations so that people can hear it from the source, right? As somebody who served in the legislature, it's very easy to guide individuals with false headlines and false social media posts based off of what that individual believes is right. And like you said, deferring points of views are valid, but let's also look at the reality of what is in front of you. Both of you serve in the Arizona State Legislature in a Republican-controlled majority in both the House and in the Senate. Yes, with a Democratic governor, which a lot of people say, that's going to be better because there's checks and balances. I beg to defer. I think it gets much more divisive because the politics and its nature is, how do we hold on to our majority and how do we get back that Republican governor seat, right? How do you navigate that between the reality of going back home down to Southern Arizona and letting your constituents know I'm here fighting for you and working for you, but at the same time coming up to Phoenix, to the Arizona State Capitol, and having to work with Republicans because they are the chairmans of the committees. They hold leadership. So the Speaker of the House is a Republican. The Rules Chairman, for those that don't know, the Rules Committee is literally where everything can stop, because it's supposed to be the place of checks and balances for the constitutionality of legislation, but many times it's used for other political purposes. How do you both kind of divide this seesaw of political games?
So I will say I have these conversations all the time with folks where they're like, oh, we read this on, someone posted that you were working too much with Republicans. I'm like, well, duh. Do you not know that we are in a Republican-led legislature? Like, you have to. In order to be effective, that's the thing. I came in as an activist. I used to work, I ran the organization in Arizona that helped, we were working on issues of healthcare, and my background's in public health. Like, I came in as an activist. We were both activists.
And you've gone to like Ghana and Panama.
And Panama on medical missions. Like, we've done it all, but I've also been always very passionate and have always stood very firm on my issues and where I stand. I don't waver. I don't take when people try to pressure me. That's not going to work. At the end of the day, I can go to sleep at night knowing that I voted this way and I can explain to you why. And I have no problem doing that. When people try to use the attack of, oh, they're only effective because they're working with people. Yeah, that's what literally our district sent us to do. I've been able to, we've both been able to get millions of dollars in the budget to help programs in our communities, to help fund different things that we need to be funding. But also that takes with learning how to negotiate, right? I am the type of person that I will gladly take a piece of the pie and keep chipping away and making sure that we're getting some sort of resolution or some sort of just, in my opinion, improving on issues rather than saying, if I can't have it all, I don't want it. I think those politics, they're cool on social media, but they don't always work.
Yeah. And I'll piggyback on what Alma just said. I think it's a privilege to go up to the Capitol and not try to do something. Yeah. We grew up in a household that was like, we were living day to day, right? The people that are sending me there are also living day to day. And I can't go back every year and in good faith ask them to sign my petition to get me on the ballot, knowing I didn't do everything humanly possible to get them something back. And I get very, for people who don't understand the way that the system works, like, we're in the minority. We have to work in our lives, we've had to work 100 times harder because we are minorities. Coming down here to the Capitol, we are in the minority again. We know what it's like to work 100 times harder than most people. And because of the amount of effort, the amount of trust that people have in us, we do everything humanly possible. And it's because of people like you, people like my brother, people like my sister, who are my mentors, who I learned the system. And it's you having to put your differences aside, knowing that people are counting on you. I also tell people when they tell me, like, how could you work with Republicans? And I'm like, how could I not? There's bus drivers that are waiting for me to do something to help them. There's people who are waiting for housing affordability who can't wait 20 or 30 more years until we get into the majority. And unfortunately, our communities don't have that privilege that other people do. So,
yeah, people's lives are at risk every single day. You mentioned bus drivers. You worked on legislation that protected bus drivers because they were being spit on, they were being assaulted, and many of them were risking their lives just to be able to do their job. So, when a lot of people, I've heard this for many, many years, well, we'll just wait till the next legislative session for another bill, right? Many people cannot wait that long, especially folks that are living day to day, trying to make ends meet. It becomes very hard when folks have to decide on either buying a gallon of gas or a gallon of milk to be able to provide for their family.
And on that point, I mean, every year I've been running now for the last 6 years, the feminine hygiene product and diaper exemption. And we've had Democrats stand up and say, oh, well, $20 or $16, $20, $30 a month that people would save is not a lot of money to justify why they wouldn't support a tax exemption on these items that are not luxury items, they're a necessity, right? So I think sometimes a lot of the priorities are different for people, and that's okay. But we all have different communities we represent. In my district, saving someone $20 a month means another tank of gas. Oh, yeah. So we grew up understanding that because our father worked construction. He would leave at 5 a.m, come back dragging his feet at 6, 7 p.m. every day because he worked on his own, right? And we learned to appreciate hard work. A mí no me mandaron aquí just to sit around, twirl my fingers, and vote no on everything just because. The people in my community have trusted me and have elected me the last 8 years because they know that I'm not going to just sit there and just, grandstand and take videos and pictures. They know I'm actually here to work and I'm serious. I'm not driving, putting all those miles. I finally hit over 110,000 miles. Very proud of that. But I'm not going up and down almost every day to then show up and just be like, oh, I'm a no on everything because it has an R behind the name. No, I'm looking at the policy. How can we improve? If there's a bill, how can we make it better? If it's going to pass, how can we make it better? And which, by the way, we've been able to do successfully, right? So I think it's just depending on the individual. Being loud and being loud and disruptive sometimes is good, but it doesn't always get you wins, and it doesn't translate to actually being effective. Like, I can go and yell all I want. Doesn't mean I'm going to accomplish anything. Or I can yell, which I did in committee yesterday over the ICE bill, the immigration issues that we see all the time. I can go and yell, but also still fight back and push back and run my own legislation that would contradict what they're trying to do, right? Like my ICE banning the mask wearing and properly taking on rules for these departments. And, there's so many different things you can do, but you need to want to do it.
Yeah.
Correct.
And on that note, I do want to recognize something that's really important to us is supporting the working people in our district. Was it 2 years ago, the tamale bill?
Oh, yeah.
2 years ago.
3 years ago.
Or 3 years ago, we went against our own party.
Yeah.
And against our governor. Because...
Which wasn't easy.
Which was not easy. You have to understand when you're the only ones, and you understand this, but when you're the only one standing up and saying, no, I can't turn my back on the working Latinos in my district or working class people trying to sell hot food to make ends meet. My mom baked cakes growing up. Cottage food. This was very personal to us. And because of the efforts of we pick and choose our battles, we were able to successfully legalize cottage food industry to be able to sell legally.
And
working
now,
with people.
And on that point, now when we go out to eat, every time in the district que entra alguien a vender, quesitos o los yeah, you know what I mean. Venden a vender lo que te traigan. Me dice mamá, ándale, saca el dinero. She's like, ándale. Because it's true. Like, you can't say that you support something and then when it's in front of you, not support it, right? So, yeah, every time I go out to eat, a lot of these vendors I've talked to and we've gotten to know over the years, y me dicen, oiga, señora, ya no estoy asustado de entrar. Because a lot of times people would say, hey, you can't be here, you have to go, right? So it was a nice thing to be able to see that it did help make our community feel safer, that no one's going to confiscate their items or call the police on them because they're selling something outside, right? Yeah. But now I have to obviously buy I always take stuff. Every weekend I'm buying stuff.
And now that we are in a different administration where people live in fear to go to school, to go to work, to continue to try to make ends meet, that couldn't have happened at a better time.
Yeah.
Where people were being harassed. Now they can't harass them because now they're selling legally. And I just feel really proud of that, of being able to have worked on that together.
No, y los pasteles de Mamá Hernandez, they're so good.
They didn't call her la pastelera de la 12 for nothing.
Cada que hay fiesta y trae un pastel, la mamá de ustedes, it's a hit at every event. Yeah. One thing that I would say is very admirable of the both of you, and I want to take the opportunity that we're in front of a microphone to highlight on this. Sometimes those negotiations are not worth it if it will hinder and hurt your communities. I remember, I believe it was last year, both of you traditionally have fought for bipartisan budgets, state budgets, to fund different programs and infrastructure and roads and all of that. But last year, you both voted against the budgets. If you both could talk a little bit about it and why.
I mean, personally, I've been very clear on why I voted. It was the first time I've ever voted against a budget, truthfully, since I've been in office. It was not an easy thing to do because, the budgets always have something that's good in there, right? But I just couldn't do that and bring myself to do that when in my own family, I've had people deported. In my own family, we have people who are living in the shadows. And knowing that the GetEm funding was still included in that was something that to me, I just could not, I could not bring myself to support the budget as it was. And I was very clear, and there's one thing I learned in law school and it's read every line, right? Yeah. And I've always felt that in order to, if the money's not going to be used for certain items, then okay, great. But I need to see that, right? I need to be able to see that on paper. I need to be able to see that in language. And we didn't have that at the time, at least. So, I voted against it out of principle, out of not going back on my what I felt was going back on my community, but also making sure that I was not only protecting my personal, just values as an individual, but also my community. And that was just bottom line. For me, that was really important.
And I think that's where the educated Latina piece comes in, because if it wasn't for my sister's opportunity to go to law school, to also have good mentors, that comes with power, right? So a nosotros no nos hacen pendejas, right? Like we were being told, because when you're in politics, people are telling you what to do constantly. Outside groups, staff, but we grew up differently where we know we can think for ourselves, we can read for ourselves. So during the budget, we were told, no, we already negotiated, but we know because of our education, if it doesn't have it in writing, it's not going to happen. And everyone else, they made their choice to do whatever it was they wanted. But for us, we knew that that was not going to happen, because if it's not in writing, it's not in law. And that is one of the biggest reasons why we did not trust. And now you can see what's happening. I'm glad we did not trust this funding, because it's being used by sheriffs to go after people that look like me. I worry every day for my mom, who lives in a predominantly whiter area. Because of her safety, we had to move to Green Valley. I worry through the checkpoints that people will harass her, thinking that she's not here legally.
She doesn't speak perfect English.
She doesn't speak perfect English. We also
we also have family members who don't speak a lot of English and are citizens and have said, should we be carrying like our passport? And I'm like, oh my goodness. So, we have a Theo that's asked us that. So that's just
the reality.
It's the reality we live in. But also, just to go back on, I think every year is different. Every budget will be different. You always have to, I always look at things in the entirety. I don't just go in and say like, oh, there's one thing I like, so this is why I'm supporting it. You have to look at everything, right? And yeah, my sister's correct, I could read for myself. There were some comments that were made like, oh, I clearly didn't read the bill. And I'm like, like if there's one thing I've learned is you read everything. And granted, there will be times we miss stuff. I will be the first to admit if I screwed up and I'm like, pues se me fue, I didn't see it or whatever. But I've always acknowledged that. And that to me was just really important. And I know that, we're living in just really different times right now. And I think that it's going to be an interesting battle. We have to pass a budget this year. The days are coming up against us here, and elections right around the corner. Everyone wants to get out of there, but we also have to be realistic and say what's going to work, right? So,
before we leave, what would you both say to a Latina growing up in Nogales or a Latina going through law school right now?
What my mom always tells us, mijita, no te dejes. and I
Prolific verse.
Because I think at the end of the day, when we're having these discussions, it's important to remember that. People will tell you all along the way, like, you can't do this. It's not for you, no es para ti. En la comunidad no hacemos eso. No hay mucha gente that we could look up to that we've seen do this, right? I mean, I went from going to juvie for something I never did at 14 years old to working my way, powering through, graduating high school early with my sister, getting my undergrad at the U of A, getting a master's in public health at the U of A, getting another master's in legal studies, moving to Baltimore for a hot minute to do further training at Johns Hopkins, coming back, and then going to law school, right? And I'm a professor at the university. I've been teaching for the last 7 years. It is all possible. And like, if you dream it, you can do it. Don't let anyone stop you, because the only person stopping you is yourself. Because if I would have stopped when I was 14 and I was told I would never do anything because of going through the broken juvenile system and just everything I had gone through, I would not be where I am today. So I think I'm the perfect example of literally, if I could do it, I always tell people, if I could do it, anyone can do it, because it has not been an easy journey, but I'm very proud of the journey I've been on.
Yeah, and I think for me, when people look at our lives, they think like, oh, they're so polished and they look so nice, but like, we're there to work. And my parents no sacrificaron tanto para nosotros no salir adelante. So we take every opportunity very seriously. We take bringing people up with us very seriously. I just had a young woman from the University of Arizona who's my fellow. I invited her to come to class with me to law school because I wish I would have had that, right? People don't open doors.
I invited you invited me.
But I always dreamed of going to law school, and we didn't have people that we could see that were on this path.
We don't have any attorney. We had to, in Mexico, we had
to kind of figure it out on our own. And people along the way, like we were able to get bits and pieces, but as Latinos, people don't give you a rule book. Mm-hmm. You rely on the community and, hopefully your parents who are encouraging. And when they're not, you have to believe in yourself. I was in high school, I applied 3 times to the university, 3 times, because I screwed up my freshman year of high school. And I didn't get, can you believe that? Like 3 times. And there were some students who used to tell me like 3rd time's a charm, but I was so motivated to go to the University of Arizona.
Te pusiste las pilas.
Me puse las pilas. Me puse las pilas. I would call every week. You have to be persistent. Call every week the university.
I mean, I've been denied for things too.
I was denied. I've lost an election. I kept going. I was on to the next one. I had been working on this, what I call dream deferred to go to law school since 2015. Yeah. I would study, but because I was working, I was trying to help other people get elected so other people could come up in their lives. I was also denied my first time I applied for law school, and now I'm in. And it's just so incredible to be able to live my dream, but I couldn't have done that if I wouldn't have had my community, especially my parents. But we had people who empowered us. So if you don't have that, you have to just remind yourself that you can do it too. You just have to be very persistent.
Yeah. No, this is such an energetic and empowering conversation that we've had with the both of you. Thank you so much for coming on to Point of View, the collaboration with Prensa Arizona. Really want people to understand that politics can be humane too, right? It can definitely, seeing the perspective of an individual's point of view from growing up in Tucson, in the barrio, to serving in the Arizona State Legislature, because we truly believe that we have the best of the best as Latinos, as people of color, as people that grow up in impoverished situations, that como estamos diciendo, si te pones las pilas, you'll get there. Si se puede. And I want to thank the both of you. It's truly a privilege and an honor to be considered a friend and to have served in the legislature with you, Alma, and to be able to see you grow in this position, Consuelo. It truly is a blessing on my perspective, at least. Well, this was Point of View, a collaboration with Prensa Arizona. Please remember to subscribe, to share with your friends and familia, and we'll see you on the next one.